Hi, I'm Vincent. I'm an engineer at Photoroom, and I'm going to show you a really cool feature that we've just released that allows you to create realistic shadows for e-commerce images with consistency at scale, meaning that the shadow will always have the same position and appearance, and you have control over that position and appearance, while also having a built-in product fidelity, which means that you have the guarantee that the product will not be changed in any way. So let's start with a before after. I'm going to switch back to the original images. I'm also going to make them a little bit bigger. So these are the images that I'm starting from. You can see that the products are shown in different aspect ratios, in different contexts, with different types of background. And what Photoroom is going to do is that it will first remove the background to isolate the product. Then it's going to place that product over a white background. It could be any other color, by the way. And finally, it's going to generate a realistic shadow that's going to really anchor the product into that new background. And as a result, you get these beautiful images that really have this high-end studio photography vibe that truly showcase the product. Just before I was saying that you do have complete control over how the shadow looks, so let's dig into that. I'm going to make this image larger so that we can really see the impact of each parameter. Basically, we have 5 different parameters, and together they give you complete control over the look of the shadow. The first parameter is the position of the shadow. Here you can see that the shadow is configured to be to the left and a bit behind the subject, but we can change that. So moving here on the preview, I am changing the direction of the shadow, and you will see as soon as the preview has finished rendering that the realistic shadow is now matching that new direction. So that was for the first parameter, the direction. The second one is the spread of the shadow. This parameter controls how long the shadow is. So right now I have what we call a medium shadow, but I can make it shorter. You can see that now the shadow is much closer to the subject. And if needed, I can also make it longer, like this. And now the product casts a much longer shadow. I'm going to put it back to medium, and then we'll move on to the next parameter. That third parameter is called the softness of the shadow, and it controls how soft the edges of the shadow will look. Right now, it's set at 30%, and we can see that there is a bit of softness on the edges, but not that much. However, we can make the softness much stronger, for example, by setting the value to 75%. And now, as you can see, we have a much softer shadow, which is more discrete. And if we want, we can also go for a much harsher shadow. So I've put the softness at 0% this time. And as you can see, this time there is no softness in the shadow. We have really hard and well-defined edges. I'm going to put the softness back to 30%, and then we'll move on to the fourth parameter. This fourth parameter is the intensity of the shadow, and it controls how dark the shadow will look. Right now, it's set at 80%, so the shadow is rather dark, but it can be darker. I'm gonna set it to 100%. And you can see that now the shadow has indeed become darker, but we can also make the shadow fainter if we want. So this time I'm going to set it to 27%. And you can see that as a result, the shadow is indeed fainter and more discrete. I'm gonna put back the value to 80%, and then we'll move to the fifth and final parameter. That last parameter is called the subject pose, and it controls whether the product should be considered as standing upright or rather laying flat on a surface. Right now, it's set to upright, which means that the shadow will be projected on a projection plane that is perpendicular to the product, just as if the product was standing upright on a flat surface. But if you want, you can switch it to flat lay, and in that case, the shadow will be generated, assuming that this time the product is laying flat on a surface, and so the shadow will be in a different position that matches this new situation. So now that we've covered the 5 parameters that fully control the appearance of a shadow, let's play with them to define a new look and feel for the shadow and then apply it at scale. So I'm gonna show all of the images together and I'm going to pick an upright pose for the subject. I'm gonna put the shadow so rather to the right and let's say rather short. I'm gonna make it have pretty hard edges so that it's very visible. And for the same reason, I'm going to have a maximum intensity so that we can really see the shadow in the images. So looking at the preview, I'm pretty happy with how the shadow looks. So now I'm going to generate that same exact shadow for all of the other products by clicking on Apply Shadows. The new images are ready, and as you can see, each of them has a new shadow that matches exactly the parameters that we've set. I'm gonna make the images a little bit bigger and then scroll so that you can see them closer. If you want to try that new feature for yourself, that's super easy. It's available right now in the Photoroom API. Just go to docs.photoroom.com and look at the feature called AI Shadows. You'll find all the details you need, including the link to the tool I've been using in this video. I hope you'll enjoy using this new feature. Thank you for watching.